We begin now at the top of Daf Pei Aleph Amar Aleph Meseches Shabbos. This is Shabbos Daf 81a. We begin with the Mishnah Etzem. When it comes to a bone, what is the shear that one is chayav for carrying it? Kedei lasos tarvet. It's enough to turn it to make it into a spoon. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda says Kedei lasos mimenu chaf. It's in order to make it into a lock. Zechuches. What's the shear for glass? Kedei ligror bo rosh hakarkar. It's in order to sharpen the end of a spindle. The spindle was an instrument that a weaver used. Tzror o even. What if a person has a pebble or a stone? Kedei lizrok ba'of. It's enough to throw it at a bird. Let's say you want to get the bird to go away. Rabbi Lazar bar Yaakov Omer kedei lizrok b'behema. He says the shear is enough to throw it at behema in order to get the animal to run away. Rashi here explains kedei lizrok b'behema lo tarach inish lemishkal tzror misham of. People aren't going to take a stone just to get a bird lahavricho to get it away. You could just scream at the bird, it's going to go away. You won't need a stone for that. So instead, the shear is going to be for a behema. So the Gemara says, Lamemra de shira de Rabbi Yehuda nafish. Do you mean to say that the shear of Rabbi Yehuda is larger? The Gemara here assumes that a lock is bigger than a spoon. Hakaimalan de shira de Rabbanan nafish. We said already in Daf Pei Amar Aleph, this was mentioned before, that the Rabbanan have the larger shear. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who's machmir with the small shear. Amar Ula, so Ula says, Chafi posachas. We're not referring to the lock itself. Rabbi Yehuda says that you're going to use the bone for the teeth of the lock. That's smaller than the spoon, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda is consistent in giving a smaller shear that you're chayav for carrying on Shabbos. Gemara continues with the two dots. Tanur Rabbanan, we learned in a brisa, chafi posachas. When it comes to the teeth of a lock, tahorin, they are tahor. That's talking about when they're not part of the lock. Rashi explains that if they're not kavua in the lock, they have no use at all, so they're tahor. Kavan beposachas, once you put them into the posachas, once you make them part of the lock, tamei, and now they function as part of the lock, they're considered a kli in their tummy. V'shal gal, now if it's part of a door, av pisha chibron bedelos v'kavan b'masmerim, even though you put it, you fixed it to the door and you use nails to hor and they're still tar. Shekal ha'mechuver lekarka hareu kakarka, because the halacha is anything that's attached to karka has the halacha of karka, and therefore it is not going to be tummy because things that are mechuver lekarka are not considered tummy. Rashi here just says, Tmeyin dechli etzem kechli matches upshutein tmeyin. When it comes to kalim that are made out of bones, they have the same status as kalim that are made out of metal, so they don't need to have a base kibul, even if they're straight. As long as they're functioning kli, they can be tamei, ba'akal shochtin, we learned that akal shochtin. V'im mishum de mechuber leposachas. Now, if you're going to say that the fact that it's attached to the posachas, v'chol ha-mechuber letar tar, and anything that's attached to something which is tar, so maybe the posachas should be tar, and that should render the teeth of the posachas tar. No. Posachas yesh lo beis kibul and mafteach. The posachas has a base kibul because the key is going to go into the lock. So therefore, it's clearly tamei, so that's not going to make it tar either, and that's why this item is considered tamei. The Mishnah then said, Zechuches kedei ligror bo, again, it was glass in order to sharpen the end of the spindle. Tana, we learned in a brisa, Zechuches, that refers to glass as well. Kedei liftzoa bo shnei minim ka'achatz, it's in order to cut two threads in one shot. It's the same exact shiur as when you're sharpening the spindle. Then it said in the Mishnah, Tzroro Evan Kedei Lizrok Ba'of Rabbi Lazar V'chulu. It said that if you have a pebble or a stone, you throw it at a bird. Rabbi Lazar said you throw it at an animal. Am Rabbi Yaakov, Am Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yaakov says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, V'hu Shemar Geshes, but it has to be large enough that the animal can feel the stone. The Kamish Shiro, how much is it? Tanya Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov, Am Mishkal Asar Zuz. Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov says it's 10 zuz. Zonin Olave Midrasha. Zonin went to the base medrash. Amar Lui said to them, Rabbosai, Avonim shel beis hakisei shurim bekama. How large are the stones for beis hakisei? Now Rashi points out something important over here. We're not only talking about the size that you're chayiv for carrying it on Shabbos. Let's say you're doing hotzah from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. He was also asking how much is considered useful for the beis hakisei. They used to wipe themselves with stones. So now that it's not muksa, normally stones are considered muksa, but if they have a function in the beis hakisei, they wouldn't be muksa. So he wanted to know how large does it function in the beis hakisei. Amrulo, they said to him, Kizayis ke'ego zuchabetza. It's a kazayis, a ke'egos, and a kebetza. Now, Rashi points out they used to use different size. Sometimes they use 3 different stones, serving different purposes when they would clean themselves. So Amar Lui said back to them, Chitor Tani Yachnes, what is he going to bring in weights over here? He's going to start measuring the exact size of stones when he needs to go to the bathroom. So Nimnu V'gamra Molayat. So they said, you're right, you don't need to measure, just take a handful of stones. Tani, we learned in a brisa, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Yossi says, Kizayis ke'ego zuchabetza. Again, same 3 shurim we said before. Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yossi Omer, Mishum Aviv, but Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yossi says the name of his father, Moleh Hayad, it is a handful. So the same machlokas that was between the original Rabbanan and Zonin ends up being the same machlokas between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yossi in the name of his father. Gemara continues with the two dots. Ton Rabban, we learned in a Brisa. Gimel avonim mikorzolos muter lahachnas lebeis hakisei. A person can take 3 sharp stones on Shabbos into the beis hakisei. It's not muksa. The kama shiur, and how large? Reb Meir Omer ke'egos. Reb Meir says like a nut. Reb Yehuda Omer kebetza. He says the shear is a kebetza. Amar Rafan bar Papa. Amar Rav Chisda. Rafan bar Papa says in the name of Rav Chisda, kemachlokas kan kach machlokas be'esrog. The same size issue. There's a machlokas ke'egos or kebetza that applies here. There's a similar machlokas when it comes to the size of an esrog. So the Gemara says, Hasam Asnisan Hacha Brisa. What are you talking about? Over there by Esrog, it's a Beferish Mishnah. Here it's a Brisa. Why would you say the Machlokas over here in some obscure situation is similar to the Machlokas in a more common case? So they say, you're right, you have to reverse it. Ela ke Machlokas be'Esrog kach Machlokas kan. Really, what Rafan bar Papa said in the name of Rachista was, he said, there's a Machlokas by Esrog, which is well known, and then he said, and now I want to tell you, there's a similar Machlokas in this Brisa when it comes to the size of a stone that you could take into the bathroom on Shabbos. That's also a similar machlokas. So the main source is, of course, the Mishnah by Esrog that everybody knows, and then this is the source that's more obscure that people are not aware of. Amar Rav Yehuda says, Avalo es hapayis. You can't take the payis to use that to wipe oneself in the bathroom. My payis, what is that? Amar Rav Zera says, Karshina bavlaisa. It's the clods of earth from Bavel. Rashi here explains. Rashi says, Karshina bavlaisa hachi mikru mishum shabavel eretz lachahi b'machresha mala regavim. It was a moist earth in Bavel, so when they would plow, it would bring up these clods of earth. And Rashi also says, as the previous Rashi, avalo apayas k'moshakal pisas regev shekorn gelishta dehoel umifrecha lo chazi lekinuach. It breaks apart, so you can't use it to wipe. V'asur l'taltal, therefore it's usur to move that item around. The Gemara continues. Amar Rava says, "Asur lemashmesh b'tzror b'Shabbos kederech shemashmesh b'chol." A person can't use a pebble on Shabbos in the same way that he does on the weekday. So Rashi over here explains what is this talking about. So lemashmesh hanitzrach lipano. Somebody needs to go to the bathroom. Beino yachal lipano. He's not able to. Amrina lekaman b'pirkei lemashmesh b'tzror b'nekev v'u niftach. They would use a pebble in that area, and it would help the person go to the bathroom. The kasal gadaitach to come over Shabbos asur lemashmesh klal kederech shemashmesh b'chol. Right now, we think what it means is that on Shabbos you can't do this at all, even though on weekdays you can. So the Gemara asks, what does that mean? Maskif la Marzutra. Marzutra asks, listakin, should the person put himself into danger? Rashi here explains, listakin, and to Amar Mar, the master said, Amar hachozer, maybe adam lidei joking. It can make a person sick if he needs to go to the bathroom, he's not able to. So therefore, you can't say that on Shabbos he can't do this. So he answers, kila achar yad. No, it meant you shouldn't do it the same way you do it b'chol. You should do it kila achar yad. You should do it with some kind of shinui. Rashi says, kagon oches tzur bevezetz ba'osav shaper dami. Hold it with 2 fingers, and that would be appropriate. So he didn't mean to say don't do it at all. That could be dangerous. He meant to say do it kila achar yad. Amar Rabbi Yanai says, if a person has a set area to go to the beis hakisei, mole hayad, then he takes a handful. Im lav kechreya. And if not, then he should take kechreya. Rashi says, what's kechreya? Kechreya keshir hamachriya keegos, like a middle shear, like a nut. Nafish mikazayas v'zutra mikabetza. It's a little bit bigger than a kazayas and a little smaller than a kabetza, so it's the middle, the moderated shear. Ducha katana shel besamim. That's a small utensil that is used to pound besamim, to pound spices. Amar Rav Sheshes says, Im yesh ala eid mutter. If there's some kind of siman, some kind of signifier on it that it was used for kinuach before, so that means it's something that is used for kinuach, for wiping, and then it becomes mutter. Rashi explains that if not, then it's a klisha malachto le'isr, and it would be muksa. So the Gemara asks, Meisvei, Asar dvarim evian asar lidei tachtoni. So it says there are 10 things that bring a person to hemorrhoids. Ve'elohein, they are as follows: Ha'ochel alei konim, somebody eats leaves of reeds, v'alei gefanim, or leaves of vines, v'lulove gefanim, or vine tendrils, u'morige behema, or uneven cuts of meat, not smooth cuts of meat, below melech, without salt, v'shidro shel dog, or the spine of a fish, v'dag maliach, shlo bishel kol tzarcho, a salted fish, it wasn't cooked fully, v'ashos shimre yayin, somebody who drinks sediments of wine, v'mekanech b'sid uv'charosis uvitzror shekinech b'chaver, or somebody who wipes with plaster or with clay or with a pebble that was already previously wiped with by somebody else. And that's the whole point of this, that you see that you're not supposed to use something that was previously used for wiping. And some people say even somebody who, when he's sitting in the beis hakisei, he doesn't really sit. He kind of crouches in a way that's not a healthy way to do it. All of those things bring a person to tachtonios. And the point is, it contradicts Rav Sheshes, who says in Yeshala Eid Mutter, that if it had a signifier that it was previously used, that suddenly makes it not muksa, that you could use it. So what's going on? So the Gemara answers, Lokash, it's not difficult. Habelach, habeyavish. It depends if it's moist or it depends if it's dry. If it's already dried off, so it's not dangerous to use it again. That's one answer. Rabbi saying another answer, kan mitzad echad, but kan mi beis tzadim. It depends if it was used on one side or two sides. If it was used only one side, you can use the other side. But once it's already been used on both sides, you shouldn't use it again. Rabbi saying, or you could say hadideh hadechavre. It depends if it was used by himself or if it was used by his friend. If it was used by his friend, of course, you shouldn't use it again. But otherwise you could use it again if it was just used for him himself. Amar le Abaye le Rav Yosef. So Abaye said to Rav Yosef, Yardu ala geshamim v'nishtashtashu mahu. What's the halacha if it rained and that aid, that signifier that was on the item, it disappears? Amar le said to him, Hayi rishuma nikor mutter. He said if there's some little bit of an imprint, some trace of it left, then it is still mutter. Rashi says, Im rishumo nikor mutter dekevon de moyis lo chazi lebesamim. Since it's moyis, since it's disgusting, you can't use it for besamim. And you're not gonna nullify it from the Beis HaKisei. It's still gonna be something that's used for the Beis HaKisei, and therefore it's mutter. The Gemara Rabba bar Rav Shila asks from, and the Gemara will continue this discussion on Daf Pei Aleph Amud Beis, and we'll see that in the next video.